Welcome to Empowering Voices, your television program. This program is for you to take inside to learn about how you can empower yourself, your friends, your neighbor, your children, someone in your life as well. So at this time, I want you to join me. We have the most wonderful senator in the state. Well, I almost want to say in the USA. Miss Connie Leyvas, thank you so much.
Thank you for that wonderful, gracious introduction.
Oh, well, you know, after talking to you for a few minutes, it's well-deserved.
Thank you.
You are phenomenal. You know, there are so many things to talk about, but the first thing I want to address is you.
Yes.
I want to know a little bit about you, why you became a senator.
Okay, you got it.
All right.
So I have lived in the Inland Empire since I was a very little girl. I was born in Kansas. My dad was in the service, but we moved to the Inland Empire when I was 18 months old. I went all through public schools, and then I worked in the labor movement for 20 years.
You were the president.
I was.
The first woman.
Yes, that is
Oh
correct.
my gosh, that's
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes, the boys weren't always excited about it, but I proved that I could do the job just as well.
Absolutely.
Maybe better.
Ah.
And I really wanted to help people find their voice. I wanted especially to help women find their voice on the job. So I represented grocery store workers and drugstore workers. So where you might shop, Albertsons, Ralph's, Vaughn's, Stater Brothers, Food for Less, those were my people.
Wow.
And to help negotiate a contract so that they had a living wage with medical benefits and a pension. I learned early on that I'm a people person and that I want to try and help people live their best life. So I did that for 20 years and I really loved every minute of it. But then I thought maybe I can do more. Maybe I can help more people.
Absolutely.
On a bigger level. So in 2014, I ran for Senate and I was lucky enough to be elected.
Yes.
And I am now in my 5th year and I really truly feel lucky every day to get to do the job.
This is wonderful. You know, we're very fortunate to have someone like yourself who is caring about what we and the underserved population need. Our needs are being met.
Thank you.
Because of your service.
Thank you.
You know, when I heard that you were the first woman, I also thought, well, these people that she works with helped. Now are managers themselves and
Yes.
district supervisors and you
Yes.
name it,
Absolutely.
where they probably weren't before.
They weren't before, and to help people find their voice and know that they had rights on the job and help them to be good employees too.
Right.
I always thought that was very important because then they do get promoted, then they do get better positions. But just being able to help workers and make sure, like I said, we negotiated good contracts so that they had good wages. I think all of those skills have helped me to be a good senator because when I'm authoring legislation and bills, I know about teamwork, I know about communication,
Yes.
I know about negotiations. I always say it takes no talent to pick winners and losers, but can you come up with a compromise where everybody walks away a little bit happy and a little bit unhappy? Then you know you've done your job.
Right. You have done an amazing thing there for us. Now, I know that you have great interest, and I want to know why. You have great interest in environmental issues.
So I have to tell you, I didn't know I was so passionate about the environment until I got elected. I did something called the Toxic Tour, which took me from one end of my district to the other end and just pointed out all the issues.
Right.
And then it made me remember that as a little girl in the 70s growing up, we couldn't see the mountains because the pollution was so bad. Now we do see the mountains and the air is clearer, but the air quality still is not good. The particulates are smaller, so even though we see the mountains and it's a beautiful day, a lot of times when I land from Sacramento, my phone says air unhealthy. And so we have to do a better job of making sure the trucks traveling on our roads are meeting all the standards that they need to meet so that we don't have that pollution. We need to make sure water is clean and safe to drink. I didn't know also until I got elected that we had a problem with lead in some of our schools here in the Inland Empire in the water. So I've authored legislation and we were able to get that fixed. So a lot of it is learning things, right?
Right.
I ran for office to make sure people have good jobs, but then I
Yes.
got there and realized there's so many other things that I have the ability to affect to make people's quality of life better.
That's wonderful. That's amazing. Was the problem possibly the pipes and all that? Was
It
that
was
part of-
absolutely, you're 100% right. It was the pipes. They were old and they were lead pipes. And who would have thought that we are still using those, that they hadn't been replaced? So we came up with a plan to help school districts replace them. Because the other, you can say go fix it, but then where's the money going to come
Thank
from?
you.
So
Yes.
you really have to make sure when you author legislation, you don't have unintended consequences and you don't put a real financial burden onto the entity that you're trying to regulate.
Absolutely, because then it would cause more taxes for us.
Absolutely.
You know, everything is about taxes anyhow. So, the minority population, is there a higher statistic of, let's say, more smog, more
Absolutely.
problems?
Yes.
Why would that be?
Well, because we do bad things to poor people. Because poor people are so busy working 2 and 3 jobs to keep a roof over their head and put food on the table for them and their children. They don't have time to go to city council meetings. They don't have time to go to planning commission meetings. Whereas people in wealthier communities, they can say, no, 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 don't do that in my backyard. So I see my job as the person to have the voice for those poor communities and say, no, 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 not in their backyard.
Right.
Poor people are wonderful people. Just because you're poor doesn't mean you're not smart, doesn't mean you're not a hard worker. It just means you haven't maybe had the opportunities that other people have had. So my job as a senator is to help those people and be their voice and make sure we're not building things in their backyard that are going to cause more pollution for them and their families.
And what are some of the things?
So warehouses are a really big problem in this district.
And how is that? They're just storing, aren't they?
That is such a good question. That's exactly right. Warehouses do not pollute, but the thousands of trucks that come in and out every single day. So when you build a warehouse by a school or by a park or by people's homes,
So there goes the trucks.
there goes the trucks.
Yeah, so we
So-
have more illness, asthma.
Asthma, people are dying of cancer.
Cancers.
Yes, exactly. It's just, there's nothing healthy about breathing the exhaust from a big rig truck. This year, the Governor Newsom signed into law SB 210, which requires big rig trucks to do a smog check. I bet you didn't know. I certainly didn't know. We all get our cars smog checked. Big rig trucks did not have to do that.
They didn't?
No, and they are the
Wow.
biggest polluters.
And they have, I'll be behind a big rig,
Yes.
one of those big trucks, and there's smoke. Smoke everywhere.
There was no compliance mechanism. There was no regulation. So we actually worked for 3 years because we did not want to completely
I'm sure they
disadvantage.
opposed
The California Trucking Association initially did, but at the end they came on in enthusiastic neutral, which was just fine because they understood that what they needed to do was important. We made sure the cost was only $30 for them to get a smog check. So we're not
Only
putting-
$30
only
with the money they're
$30.
making?
Well, yeah.
But at least it's getting done.
It's getting done, and they were concerned about the cost. That we do put a lot of regulations on our trucking industry, so it was shocking to me that we had not put any kind of mechanism to make them do a smog check. So we do have that now. We kept the cost low. It goes into effect January 1st. The most important thing, I think, is if you are a truck owner from out of state or out of the country, you have to get a smog check, and you have to pass it in order to get an operator's permit in the state of
In
California.
the state of California, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so that helps our truckers here who said, hey, we're abiding by this. What about these other trucks? So we feel like it's very good legislation. It's very fair legislation, and it will ultimately help the population up and down the state of California.
Right, because I've seen, a lot of warehouses next to schools,
Yes.
close to schools.
Yes.
And there goes the big old trucks.
Yep.
And that flows.
Yep, it just goes right. They need to be at least 1,000 feet away from a school or a park so that the fumes do not harm the children. I think 1,000 feet seems very close still, but that's what we've been told is appropriate.
Okay. Now, in the history of research that I did on you, there was one particular area that you're involved in, and that's the rape kits.
Oh, yes.
I want to know, I know our viewers want to know, what exactly is going on? I've heard of rape kits that are there for years.
You are right. You have heard correctly.
So how can, and meanwhile, that person that did the rape
Yep.
is raping more and more.
That's exactly right.
Possibly.
Possibly. That's exactly right. So that legislation came directly from legislation I'd done in 2016, which ended the statute of limitations on rape. It used to be you had to come forward in 10 years, and if you didn't, regardless of the evidence you had, you could not hold your perpetrator accountable.
Right.
So we eliminated that. And then I found out that we have all of these rape kits that are sitting on shelves collecting dust. And when I think of a rape kit, I think of a person. So each one of those represents a person and their experience.
Right.
So you have this horrible crime perpetrated on your body, and then you go to a hospital and they do the rape kit, which takes about 5 hours because they comb through everything to make sure they can find some DNA to catch the perpetrator. So think about doing that and then realizing that when you think that the police are out there trying to find this person, your kit hasn't even been opened. So my bill now will require, which was signed into law this year, will require that every rape kit has to be opened and tested within 120 days. We know that DNA solves crimes.
Yes.
So it will exonerate the good guys and it'll put the bad guys behind bars. So to me, it just seemed like such a no-brainer bill. It's like, why aren't we already doing this? But I couldn't be happier that it's been signed into law, and I think that it will allow victims to become survivors.
I see. Well, that's a very good thing that's being done, because as a woman myself, I would say, oh, I got raped, the kid is just sitting there, and the guy's just out there doing his thing.
Yes, and there's evidence to show that men who have raped go on to rape again. There's a wonderful documentary, and it says, it's called My Body is Evidence, I believe, and it talks about Detroit and these rapists who continue. If they would have stopped them in the first place by testing that rape kit, they would not have gone on to rape other women. So we know that testing the DNA works.
Oh, I see.
So I'm very excited that it's moving
Yeah,
forward and
yeah.
helping victims become survivors.
It's becoming, and that way our women, can go on with their lives.
Exactly.
And being afraid, possibly, that person is going to come back.
Absolutely. And
He knows where I live, or he knows who I am.
And women talk about that, and they talk about not being able to sleep and just being terrified and putting extra locks on their doors and their windows, and no one should live like that.
Now, food waste.
Yes.
Clean energy, food waste, what is that?
Yes. So clean energy, food waste. We can take our food waste and we can actually turn it into fuel. And it's fuel that is clean energy versus the fossil fuel that we use to put in our cars. So I've authored a little bit of legislation in that area. I think I have more to do in that area because it is so important. But food waste in general, we need to find a way to not waste food. We cannot say that we have hungry people and we have food that's going bad or food that's being thrown away. Two separate issues, but I worry about both.
I see. Okay, now, have you ever written a bill and given it to another one of your colleagues so that they can have it passed?
Yes.
So that, and the credit's not given to you?
Yes, I've done that a couple times.
Tell me about the bills that you wrote.
You bet. So what I like to say to people is if we don't care who gets the credit, we can get really good things done. So I had two instances just this last year. One was after school care. So 2 years ago, I had authored legislation and brought $50 million to the state for after school care, because I really believe if our kids don't have someplace to go after school, they'll find something to do.
Oh, yes.
It's just not what we want them to do.
No.
So this year, my bill package was pretty full, and I had some budget asks, because I'm the chair of the Women's Caucus. So I went to one of my colleagues in the Assembly, Assemblymember Carrillo, and I said, would you like to carry this bill? I will help you shepherd it through. And we got it through, and she gets all the credit. And you know what all I care about is that there's another $50 million coming for after school care.
Yes.
The other bill was a dialysis bill. Dialysis companies are a little unscrupulous when it comes to some of their practices. So I had a bill last year that got vetoed by the governor. So I said to one of my assembly colleagues, would you carry the bill this year? I will help you, I will champion it, but maybe you will have better luck than me. And he got it to the governor's desk, and it was signed into law.
So why is it that this governor won't sign it?
It was Governor Brown that didn't sign it.
okay.
Now Governor Newsom has
Okay.
signed it.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So different
But
philosophies.
It's just philosophies, and but the other person got it through.
Yes.
But it was your bill.
Yes, it was my bill, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Again, for me, it really isn't about who gets the credit.
Right.
It's about making sure the right thing happens for people. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I think when you get older and a little more mature and you're confident in your abilities, it doesn't bother you.
It doesn't
I
matter.
might not have done that when I was younger, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I might have wanted the credit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, as far as, we have, I'm sure, a lot of seniors watching your show today.
Yes.
And what have you done as far as mobile homes? I hear that you have really worked for them.
Yes. So,
Or I should say for us.
yes, another issue that I didn't know I was going to have a passion for, mobile homes. When I was elected in 2014, I was asked if I would like to be the chair of the Select Committee on Mobile Homes. And I thought, yes, mobile homes seem like they're the last bastion of affordable housing, and maybe I can be helpful. Well, I will tell you, I have learned more about mobile homes than I probably ever thought I needed to know. And so many of our seniors do live in mobile home parks. And so we've authored legislation. We've had 5 bills that have been signed into law to help with the parks, making sure that they are regulated properly. We have authored legislation to help people finance their mobile homes. You used to have to get something called a chattel loan to own a mobile home, which is kind of like a credit card loan. And so the interest rates weren't good. You couldn't borrow on it. So let's say you don't have to be a senior. Let's say you're living in a mobile home and you've bought it and you've used a chattel loan. Maybe you have a child that's going to college. You can't borrow against that mobile home to help your child like I could with my stick-built house. So we changed that so you can do regular loans to get a mobile home. And we've done a number of bills. This year I'll be authoring, the upcoming year, I'll be authoring a bill on park manager training, because park managers many times, almost always, are not trained.
Right.
And if they don't know the law, then many times the residents are being taken advantage of. Right. So I hope that one will be a little bit of a fight, but training is good for everybody. No one sets out to do a bad job. Yeah. So I love my mobile homes. I hope that I get to stay the chair until I'm done in the Senate, because so many good people live there.
Yeah. Do you see, being a senator, do you see yourself going to another level? As far as politics are concerned?
I don't know, to be honest with you, Erlinda. I've always had the philosophy that I should focus on the job that I'm in and do the best job that I can and not look at the future. If I'm reelected one more time, that gives me 7 more years in the Senate. I don't know that I'd ever want to go to Washington, D.C. I feel like I wouldn't be very effective there. And here you can make a difference. Yeah. So I don't know. When I term out, I'll be 60 years old, and we'll see what the future holds. I also think God has a plan. So
yes, and it'll show up when it's time.
I think that's exactly right.
It really will. One of the things that I wonder about is when people commit crimes, and they're going to prison. As far as reentry programs, when they come out, it's hard to get a job.
Yes.
So is there any type of bill that can help them to possibly get hired or trained?
So we had Assemblymember Eloise Gomez-Reyes authored a bill, I believe it was last year, and it was called Ban the Box, so that you didn't have to check off that you were a convicted felon. And I am embarrassed to say I don't remember if the governor signed it or not, but if he didn't, I think she will rerun it again, because it's so important. She is wonderful too. She's a great partner for me. When I was working in the labor movement, I would have people say, I'm a convicted felon if I check this. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I used to tell them, don't check it. And if you go and prove yourself, because if they do check it, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to get hired. Right. So give them the chance. We all make mistakes. If you serve time, it should not be a life sentence. You did a crime, you did your time, you should now be able to go back into society. The reentry programs are so important, especially for people who've served a lot of time. I was I represent 2 prisons, and I was talking to a man at the men's prison, and he'd been incarcerated for 25 years, was about to get out, had no idea how to use a cell phone. And we forget about those things. Right. We all, our cell phones are our life. And so there's so many things that change it is incumbent upon us. They're going to be our neighbors. How do we make sure they re-enter and they can not go back to the life they had because we've taught them something better?
Right,
We have a lot of work to
absolutely.
do.
Yeah, as far as the program is, because I go to Victorville
Oh, yes.
and the federal prison, and when I see a class full of men, and I wonder, what are they going to do when they get out?
Absolutely. The building trades have been phenomenal in hiring people who have been formerly convicted and giving them a second chance. I think we need to expand that into other industries and say, just because you made a mistake, we've been working with a young woman who served time at Chino Prison, and she is going to school to become an RN. And
good.
she has hit some roadblocks, but we've been there for her. We've written letters of support because just because you make a mistake, we all make mistakes. Fortunately, my mistakes have not put me in prison, but when you get out, you should have every opportunity to be a full member of society, and that includes having a good job.
Right. Now, there's another issue that might concern some of the people, and that's nutrition. School
Yes.
programs.
Yes.
I read an article where you are involved somewhat
Yes.
in making sure the kids are fed.
So I am now the chair of Senate Education, which I feel very honored to get to do, and a lot of stress because we got to do it right. But we have had some bills that have come before us, and when you're the chair, you can alter them a little bit, you can help make them better. And one of the bills that we had was about kids who come to school and mom and dad didn't send them with any money, they haven't paid for their, things happen. Mom and dad don't have the money or they forgot. I was a busy working mom when my girls were little. I may have forgotten too. And so the kids were given just this little sack lunch with a piece of fruit and a cheese sandwich. And what the bill we passed said is no, they get the exact same lunch that's on the menu for everyone else, and then we'll figure out how to find the money from mom and dad. Because I think that our young people have so many things that set them apart and make them feel like they don't belong. Eating food should not be one of them. I just attended a breakfast in the classroom at Eisenhower High School.
I read about it.
Yes,
Yes.
it was amazing. So they every morning they have breakfast in the classroom, and they send a student. They have a little wheelie and they pull it down into the food. And what I love is that they also have a share table. So if I don't want my portion, I can put it on the share table or in the share box.
Good.
Because if it goes back into the container, it's waste. Exactly. And whatever we can do to help our young people to start the day with the most important meal of the day, it's really incumbent upon us. Mom and dad are doing the best they can, but they might be working minimum wage jobs, and there's just not a lot of money. So I will always fight for our young people, everyone, but in our schools especially. Let's make sure our children have the food they need so that they can learn properly.
And they have creation of summer lunches.
Yes, I love that. I visited one in Ontario last summer, and it was fantastic. And in Ontario, they attach it to the Ontario Library, so that way they can go and get a book as well. It's just a win-win. We have to invest in our future. And what I like to say is if we're not going to put the money in our children, then we have to stop saying that they're our future.
The future is here now.
The future is here now, that's right.
And we have to feed that future. You know, I trained a young lady in the work that I worked at, and I told her, one day you're going to be my nurse.
Oh, I love that.
I walked in and she did my blood pressure.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
I mean, we have to teach them.
We do have to teach them and lead and show
Empower
the way.
them.
Empower them. That's exactly right.
Empower them and let them be our future.
Yes.
The best that they can be.
We do we have several programs for our young people. One is our Young Senators program, which is a 10-month program. At the end of it, we take them up to Sacramento, but trying to empower them, exactly.
Yeah. If we don't do that, it's not a benefit to society.
It is not. I always tease them and say, you know what, unfortunately, you young people have to fix the world that we adults have screwed up.
Yes.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. No pressure at all. There are a lot of programs for the future, our children. There are a lot of programs, and a lot of times parents don't know.
Yes,
How
that
do
is
we get that message to them?
So we also do a young women's program each year. We do a young men's conference each year, and we try to give them information that maybe their parents didn't have. My parents didn't have any idea how to send me to college, so I figured it out on my own. So a lot of it happens at the schools, but I think that we as elected officials can do a lot as well. So for us, it's with our young women's conferences, our young men's conferences, our young senators program, and then word also gets out, not just the students who attend and are in the program, but they talk to their friends. And then we talk to them, you have any questions, you need anything, call us. We want to help you. We want to get you where you need to be.
So our viewers have an open door policy with you.
Yeah.
They can call your office.
Anytime.
And if you're not there,
They will talk to my fabulous staff.
you have a wonderful staff. How many staff members do you have?
I have a lot. In the district, I have 7. We have 5 in our Pomona office, 2 in our San Bernardino office. In Sacramento, there are 9 of us, plus I have 6 for being the chair of Senate Ed. I also have 1 person to help me with mobile homes. So I'm very blessed to have a big staff,
Well, you do
so we
have
can do a lot.
You have a lot of cities under you.
Yes, I have 11 cities.
11.
11 cities, and each senator represents just under 1 million people.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So-
So people can call into your office.
Anytime, yes.
And they will receive some help.
They will receive help. My staff is wonderful. We do constituent work every single day.
What kind of constituent work?
Sometimes people need help with DMV. Any of your state agencies, anything. Sometimes people need help with disability. Sometimes people might call us with something that actually is a federal issue, which we might not be able to help you on, but we can refer you to who you do need to talk to. So I always tell people, before you call an attorney, before you call a consultant, call us. You're already paying our salary through your taxes. Let us do it for you for free. And I would say probably 9 times out of 10 we can help.
Wonderful. That is wonderful. I am so impressed with your work.
Thank you.
My goodness, you need to continue helping us.
I will. I love my job. I feel very lucky. The only thing I ever worry about is, am I doing enough? I need to do more. So.
Do you ever take time for yourself?
Yes, I try to take a little bit of time because I still want my family to like me when this is done.
What do? Do you go fishing or something?
No, I love to read, and so I like to sit maybe by the pool, or my husband and I took a trip to Hawaii back in October to celebrate our 31st wedding anniversary. So we'll usually take one nice vacation a year where we do absolutely nothing and recharge our batteries, and really my family, just being around them, they keep me grounded and they make me happy.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're about to close.
Okay.
And I'd like for you to make a little comment to the viewers about what you want them to know about you.
I just want them to know that I'm a regular person, just like anybody else. I just have more responsibility as your state senator. I want them to know that, just like you said, that we have an open door policy.
Yes.
I really thoroughly enjoy hearing from people because I think I have a good idea of what will help move the Inland Empire forward. But I love to hear from people, and I love them to tell me, hey, what do you think about this, Connie? What do you think about that idea? We do coffees, and we invite the community in, and it's one of my we try to do about 1 a month, and we do them all over in all our different cities, and it's great for me because I get to hear people what's important to them, and sometimes I can dispel rumors. People might say something, I'll be like, oh no, that's not really true, that's not what happened, or yes, that is true. So I just want them to know that we are accessible, we are regular people, and we're just trying to make people's lives better.
That's wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We really are lucky to have you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, Empowering Voices. What did I tell you? We had a wonderful senator here. She is amazing. Now, if you do need some help, please call the office. At the end of the program, there will be a number where you can call. That goes for you too, kids. Sometimes you need an answer too. It has been Empowering Voices, your television program. I'm Erlinda, and until next time, see you later.